You had a reputation as a real horse's behind in this town. A very difficult guy.
It shows you what a good actor I am.
There are some stories that shed light on a much more sinister aspect of fame, which lies beneath the glittering surface of Hollywood's golden age. There was more to the world of classic cinema than just a playground for celebrities. It was also a stage for behavior that was unsettling and for figures that were controversial. A more troubling reality is revealed by these stories, which reflect the complexities and frequently unsettling truths that are hidden behind the scenes. These stories peel back the glamorous veneer of stardom and expose a more troubling reality. It is possible that what is about to enlighten you will also shock you. Greetings, and thank you for joining us as we count down the top 10 most disturbing figures from the golden age of Hollywood. In addition to their illustrious careers, these celebrities have off-screen lives that reveal shocking secrets, harsh temperaments, and controversial legacies that cast a shadow over their careers. Number 10. The troubling legacy of Faye Dunaway. The powerful performances that Faye Dunaway gave in films such as Chinatown and Bonnie and Clyde helped propel her to the forefront of the entertainment industry during the 1960s and 1970s. Because of her stunning good looks, extraordinary talent, and undeniable presence on screen, she became a legendary figure in the Hollywood industry. In spite of this, numerous reports of her erratic and troubling behavior emerged concurrently with her rise to fame, and these reports would come to define her reputation within the industry subsequently. The on-set behavior of Dunaway was frequently described as being volatile, and tales of outbursts and conflicts with her co-stars became a common part of her legacy. In the course of the production of 40 Carats, a Broadway play in which Dunaway was involved, one of the most infamous incidents took place. Her co-workers described her as difficult to work with, and there were reports that she had been involved in physical altercations, and that the work environment was hostile. One of Dunaway's co-stars related a story about how she actually struck them across the face, not as part of the performance, but out of genuine aggression. Paul Huntley, a Broadway wig designer, recounted his personal experience of working with Faye Dunaway in 1996. He recalled an incident in which Dunaway slapped his assistant over a disagreement that was merely about hairpins. Because of these stories, people had the impression that Dunaway was not only demanding, but also unpredictable, which contributed to the tense environment that existed wherever she worked.
My dear Sister Lucretia is broken with grief. The court will observe a proper period of mourning.
Even the legendary actress Bette Davis, who is also known for having a powerful personality, made a comment about Dunaway's reputation. The famous quote attributed to Davis, which states, "I wouldn't piss on her if she were on fire," encapsulates the sentiment that many people in the industry had regarding working with Dunaway. The talent that Dunaway possessed on screen was undeniable, and the fact that she appeared in some of the most critically acclaimed films of her era ensured that she would have a place in the annals of Hollywood history when she passed away. In spite of this, her temperament behind the scenes was one of the factors that contributed to the legacy of tension and conflict that continues to follow her throughout her career. Number 9. Orson Wells, the unfiltered genius. The film director Orson Wells is widely regarded as one of the most accomplished filmmakers in history. His creative genius has influenced a number of generations of filmmakers, and his groundbreaking work on films such as Citizen Kane has revolutionized the art of cinema. On the other hand, behind the genius was a man whose unfiltered opinions and pointed criticism set him apart from a significant number of his contemporaries. The conversations that Wells had with director Henry Jaglom were recorded in private, and they reveal a side of the director that very few people knew about. Wells was not shy about expressing his disapproval of the people who were living during his time. Charlie Chaplin was singled out for special disdain by him, who referred to him as conceited and full of himself. Furthermore, he had harsh words for Laurence Olivier, describing him as dim-witted, and he took aim at Bette Davis, whom he stated he could not stand to watch on screen. He also had harsh words for Laurence Olivier. It was not just actors that Wells judged harshly. He also had little patience for the Hollywood studio system, which he believed stifled creativity. Wells's harsh judgments did not stop with actors. This conflict with the studios frequently resulted in financial difficulties for Wells, who insisted on making films in his own unique style even if it meant working with a restricted amount of resources or on a budget that was extremely tight. Wells never wavered in his dedication to his artistic vision, even in the face of the contentious relationships he had. The fact that he is able to push the boundaries of cinema while simultaneously navigating the harsh realities of Hollywood is a testament to both his talent and his willingness to continue. The scathing criticisms that he directed toward his contemporaries, on the other hand, reveal a man whose brilliance was accompanied by a brutal and unflinching perspective of the world that surrounded him. Number 8. The unseen darkness of Mickey Rooney. In front of the camera, Mickey Rooney portrayed a persona that was full of youthful exuberance and charm. In lighthearted films, where he frequently played the upbeat, energetic, and lovable boy-next-door type, he was a fan favorite among audiences. His roles in these films earned him a lot of affection. Within the realm of film, Rooney was portrayed as the epitome of the golden boy of Hollywood, a person whom everyone adored. Nevertheless, when Rooney was not in front of the camera, his behavior was completely different from what was depicted on screen. Rooney was notorious for his fiery temper, which frequently led to conflicts with his co-workers and alienated those who were in his immediate vicinity. It was well known that he was demanding, difficult, and prone to outbursts, which goes against the warm and fuzzy characters that he portrayed. Those who had the opportunity to collaborate with him painted a picture of a man who was harsh, critical, and occasionally cruel to those who were in his immediate vicinity. During the production of National Velvet in 1944, Rooney's interactions with a young Elizabeth Taylor became a source of concern. This was a particularly troubling incident that occurred during the production of the film. At the time, Taylor was a rising star, and Rooney, who had already achieved a significant amount of fame, seemed to belittle her talents and dismiss her as inexperienced. Taylor was still in her teens at the time. It has been reported that Rooney treated her with condescension and undermined her by expressing doubts about her capacity to perform the role. This event marked the beginning of a string of revelations regarding Rooney's disrespectful behavior toward women and colleagues, which tarnished his image, which had previously been portrayed as being pure. Additionally, Rooney's personal life was fraught with turmoil. All 8 of his marriages were marked by public divorces, financial problems, and scandals. His marriages were a series of public divorces. Because of his struggles with substance abuse, he frequently found himself in conflict with the demands of stardom, which made these problems even more difficult to deal with. The darker side of Rooney's personal struggles was brought to light by his financial difficulties, which were made worse by a string of poor investments and gambling habits. Although Rooney presented himself to the public as a charming individual, it was abundantly clear that he was a deeply troubled individual whose personal and professional lives were fraught with uncertainty. Rooney's performance in the film Breakfast at Tiffany's, which was released in 1961, is another aspect of his legacy that has generated a great deal of controversy. Mr. Yunyoshi, the character that Rooney played in the film, was portrayed in an exaggerated manner, and the portrayal has since been subjected to significant criticism for its lack of sensitivity to racial issues. Further damage has been done to his legacy as a result of this performance being brought up again and again over the years as an illustration of harmful stereotyping. Rooney's life behind the scenes revealed a man who was plagued by insecurities and flaws, which stood in stark contrast to the upbeat and positive persona he presented to the public. Rooney, however, was not the only star from Hollywood's golden age whose dark side became the subject of widespread controversy. Other stars from that era also had a dark side. Number 7. The controversial legacy of Kirk Douglas. During the golden age of Hollywood, Kirk Douglas was widely considered to be among the most influential and charismatic actors. It was his commanding presence on screen, combined with his powerful performances in films such as Spartacus and Paths of Glory, that established him as one of the most respected actors of his generation. However, Douglas's life outside of the screen was significantly more complicated and, at times, troubling. In his younger years, Douglas experienced a lot of adversity. Having been born Isur Danielovich Dembski in New York to parents who were poor immigrants, Douglas was raised in an environment that was unstable. He endured bullying and discrimination throughout his childhood as a result of his Jewish heritage, which caused him a great deal of difficulty. When Douglas was younger, he was confronted with adversity, which helped shape his ambitious nature and his desire to achieve success in Hollywood. The personal relationships and behaviors that he developed alongside his career, on the other hand, frequently turned into contentious situations. Throughout his private life, Douglas was the subject of rumors of infidelity and relationships that were fraught with conflict. Natalie Wood, an actress, was the subject of one of the allegations known to be particularly disturbing. It was reported that Douglas, who was significantly older than Wood, had extended an invitation to her to attend a private meeting. And the events that took place have been kept a secret for a very long time. Despite the fact that there was never any concrete evidence or charges brought forward, the allegations that surrounded this incident cast a long shadow over Douglas's reputation, particularly after his death in the year 2020. Even his contemporaries made comments about how challenging his personality was. Burt Lancaster, who had a number of films in which Douglas appeared alongside him, is famous for making jokes about how difficult it could be to collaborate with Douglas. Although these tensions existed, the two continued to maintain a close relationship, which is illustrative of the complex relationships that Douglas maintained in both his personal and professional affairs. It was well known that he had a controlling personality, and he frequently assumed the role of director or producer in order to micromanage the work of those who were in his immediate vicinity. Douglas fired the original director of Spartacus after only 1 week of production because he believed the film required a different direction. This is a well-known incident that occurred under his leadership. There is no denying the fact that Douglas has made a significant contribution to the film industry. He is credited with being a significant contributor to the breaking of the Hollywood blacklist. He is famous for his insistence that Dalton Trumbo, a writer who was blacklisted, be given credit for writing Spartacus. However, his legacy continues to be a complicated one, with the controversies that he has been involved in outside of the screen serving as a reminder of the complicated nature of fame. Number 6. The eccentric genius of Peter Sellers. It was Peter Sellers' portrayal of Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther series that brought him the most fame as a comedic genius. During his time period, he was considered to be one of the most versatile actors due to his ability to transform into a wide variety of other characters. Nevertheless, Sellers' life outside of the screen was just as erratic and peculiar as the characters he portrayed on screen. The fact that Sellers was notorious for his erratic behavior and mood swings made him a difficult person to collaborate with. The director Blake Edwards, who collaborated with Sellers on the films that made up the Pink Panther franchise, frequently found himself in conflict with the erratic tendencies of the actor. As a result of the strain that their professional relationship had become, they began to communicate with one another through intermediaries, rather than directly with one another. Being devoted to a shrine that was devoted to his mother, who had passed away, was one of the most peculiar habits that Sellers had. According to reports, he took this shrine with him wherever he went and communicated with it as if his mother were still alive. This peculiar attachment to his mother, in conjunction with his volatile behavior, made Sellers a mystery. He was brilliant on screen, but he was deeply troubled by it. The spontaneity and unpredictability that Sellers brought to the set contributed to some of his most memorable performances, despite the challenges that he caused by his presence. It was his ability to tap into the absurdity of life that gave birth to his comedic style, even if it meant causing chaos along the way. Number 5. The enigmatic legacy of Errol Flynn. He was known for his roles in adventure films such as The Adventures of Robin Hood, and Errol Flynn was considered to be the epitome of the Hollywood swashbuckler. Flynn's off-screen life was just as full of drama and controversy as any of his films, despite the fact that his charisma and dashing good looks made him a success in the entertainment industry. In his younger years, Flynn lived a life filled with daring and defiance. Flynn was born in Tasmania, and he spent his childhood getting into serious trouble, which ultimately led to him being kicked out of school and beginning a string of dangerous adventures. Before beginning his career in acting, he had a variety of jobs, including those of a plantation overseer, a diamond smuggler, and a pearl diver. Flynn's personal life was much more scandalous than the characters he played on screen, but his real-life adventures were very similar to those of the characters he played. In 1943, Flynn was accused of committing statutory rape, which resulted in a trial that received a lot of media attention. Despite the fact that he was found not guilty, the trial ruined his reputation and gave him the nickname "In Like Flynn," which was a reference to the fact that he had a tendency to spend time with women. However, Flynn's hard-living lifestyle eventually caught up with him, despite the fact that his career continued to flourish, despite the legal issues he was facing. By the 1950s, his once promising career had begun to deteriorate, and he had earned a reputation for drinking excessively. The legacy of Flynn is one that is still characterized by both success and scandal, and it exemplifies the extremes of Hollywood's golden age. Number 4. Wallace Beery's troubling legacy. Wallace Beery was a well-liked actor who was famous for portraying characters on screen who were challenging but endearing. On the other hand, Beery was not at all the kind of heartwarming everyman that he portrayed behind the scenes. There is a darker side to Beery, particularly when it comes to his treatment of younger actors, as evidenced by the accounts of colleagues and crew members. This is especially true. Despite the fact that Mickey Rooney had a great deal of respect for Beery, he was subjected to bullying and mistreatment at the hands of Beery. This is one of the most unfortunate stories. Rooney recalled how Beery had been physically aggressive toward him and other young actors, which contributed to the antagonistic atmosphere that existed on the set. In addition to his treatment of his co-stars, Beery's problematic behavior extended to other areas. Beery was also a challenging experience for Gloria Swanson, who is considered to be one of the most famous actors in Hollywood. During the early stages of her career, Swanson detailed how Beery took advantage of his power and status to perform manipulative and abusive behavior toward her. Even though Beery has worked hard to cultivate a positive image on screen, his behavior away from the camera serves as a reminder of the more negative aspects of Hollywood's golden age. His actions shed light on the patterns of power dynamics and exploitation that were all too prevalent in the industry during that time period.
I was never afeard of Flynn alive, and I ain't scared to face him.
These darker aspects of Hollywood's golden age are reflected in Beery's interactions with his colleagues, which occurred during a time when the entertainment industry was plagued by issues of exploitation and control. There is a disturbing picture of the man behind the roles that is painted by the contrast between the friendly persona he portrays on screen and the behavior he exhibits in real life. Number 3. Milton Burl, the downfall of a TV legend. In the 1950s, Milton Burl, who was affectionately referred to as Uncle Milty, was a pioneer in the field of television and became a widespread household name as a result of the popularity of his weekly variety show, the Texaco Star Theater. Businesses would close their doors during the show's broadcast in order to allow their employees and customers to watch it. At the pinnacle of his career, Burl was able to achieve a level of stardom that was unmatched by many others. The larger-than-life persona that Burl portrayed extended beyond the screen, and his inflated sense of self-importance resulted in a number of disagreements with his coworkers. There was an incident that took place during his hosting gig on Saturday Night Live in 1979 that became one of the most notorious incidents. A nostalgic tribute to Burl's contributions to television was supposed to be the purpose of his appearance on the show. However, the show quickly turned out to be a complete and utter failure. He disagreed with the members of the cast and crew, disregarded the guidance provided by Lorne Michaels, the creator of the show, and made an effort to take command of the entire production himself. Burl's performance was later described as problematic by Gilda Radner, who was a key cast member at the time. Radner cited Burl's constant mugging for the camera and his refusal to follow the show's script as the reasons for her assessment. Burl's reputation was harmed as a result of the episode, which is remembered as being among the most challenging episodes in the complete history of the show. Every aspect of Burl's personal life was a source of controversy. Burl's private life frequently made headlines due to the fact that he was notorious for his numerous affairs and turbulent marriages. In spite of the fact that he made significant contributions to the field of television, Burl's later years were marred by tales of arrogance and self-importance, which obscured a significant portion of his early achievements. Number 2. Bing Crosby's darker side. Because of his silky voice and easygoing charm, Bing Crosby became one of the most well-liked entertainers of his era among his audience. Through songs such as White Christmas, Crosby became a symbol of the warmth and values that are associated with family. However, Crosby's private life was significantly more troubled than his public image suggested. This was the case behind the scenes. The emotional distance and tension that existed between Crosby and his children, particularly his son Gary, were defining characteristics of their relationship. After some time had passed, Gary disclosed that Bing was frequently absent from their lives concentrating more on his professional life than on his role as a father. There was very little room for Crosby to devote to his family life due to the demands of his schedule, which included juggling film roles, radio broadcasts, and live performances. Bing's struggles with alcoholism added to the tension that Gary described in their relationship, which was already difficult to begin with. Crosby's drinking, in conjunction with his authoritarian and strict parenting style, resulted in the formation of a rift between him and his children that never fully healed. The personal life of Crosby was fraught with anguish, despite the fact that he presented himself to the public as a family man. The tragic death of his son Lindsay, who struggled with his own demons, compounded the pain that Crosby carried in his later years. Lindsay had been struggling with his own demons. In spite of the fact that his music has stood the test of time, the more troubling aspects of Crosby's life serve as a reminder that even the most cherished celebrities can have difficult personal lives. Number 1. Henry Fonda, a complex icon. In the world of film, Henry Fonda was the personification of the typical American hero. He became a symbol of integrity and moral righteousness as a result of his roles in films such as The Grapes of Wrath and 12 Angry Men, which cemented his established reputation. On the other hand, Fonda's life was a great deal more complicated off-screen. Infidelity and emotional distance were common characteristics of Fonda's relationships with the women he was involved with. There were 5 marriages that he had, and each of them was plagued by his inability to express emotion and connect with his partners. He was unable to do either of those things. Jane and Peter Fonda, his children, frequently discussed their father's coldness and distance, describing him as more interested in his work than in being a father. They also described him as being more distant from them. One example of the many extramarital relationships that defined Fonda's personal life was his long-term affair with Lucille Ball, which began during his marriage. This affair was just one of many that he entered into during his lifetime. In spite of the fact that Fonda was known to the public as a devoted husband and father, his private life was often fraught with conflict. His later years were marked by health struggles and depression, which cast a shadow over his final days. Fonda passed away in the year 2000. The stark contrast between his on-screen persona and the struggles he faced in real life serves as a reminder that the heroes we see in movies are frequently much more flawed than we imagine them to be.
Carry out my duties in ways best fitted to the job, aim being always, of course, public safety.
And that concludes our exploration of some of the most notorious figures in Hollywood history. Did your favorite make the list? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more intriguing content. Click on the next video popping on your screen now. Until next time.